What is going on, everyone? Tim from Tierfon Orbital. So I'd like to talk about a very, very unique lightsaber today. So a customer sent me this hilt for a complete gut and reinstall. When I received this hilt, I had no idea who made it. I have never seen a hilt like this before. This is a very, very interesting and unique hilt. I was very ignorant, unfortunately, to the maker of this hilt, and thankfully, some folks in the comments when I posted educated me and let me know who the maker was. So this was made by Nanh Dinh. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm probably not. From Saber Relics Reforged Gallery. That is a mouthful. So this was quite the unique hilt when I received it. I've never seen anything quite like it. We have a number of different forms of art going on here, right? So we've got a bunch of traditional stuff going on in the grip. We've got a nice Ito wrap. We've got Manuki in here underneath the wrap. We've got a nice Tsuba with some artwork on it. I mean, it's just a very, very, very unique hilt. We've got an exposed, I mean, technically it's not exposed. The crystal chamber is behind like this piece of acrylic or polycarbonate. So it's a very, very unique hilt. However, it had a little bit of a, it just had an older install in it. Okay, so this particular install was a sled type of install where you would remove the chassis from the bottom of the pommel, but it would still be connected with wires. There was also an external recharge port, like a micro USB recharge port up here. So there was a few things that I wanted to change about this install. Obviously, I wanted to go with a full removable chassis, so I wouldn't need a recharge port anymore. So I had to figure out a few things that I wanted to remove, a few things that I wanted to add to this install. So it was a lot of fun figuring out what I wanted to do with this one, right? So I do want to come into Fusion and talk about what we did with this chassis, and then we will come up top and talk about how to use it, and then we will put a blade in it and do a demo, and we'll be on our way after that, right? So let's come into Fusion. All right, so here it is. This is the chassis, relatively short chassis, as you will already see around back here. We've got a very, very small battery. So the inside of this hilt is an inch all the way through. So I wasn't able to stack a board and a battery. So the compromise that we made was to go with an 18350. So I was able to get an 18350 battery down here and a Profi board up top. Okay, at the bottom we have a fully enclosed 24 millimeter speaker. Then we have our 18350 battery here, and then up top is our Profi board. Something that I have been doing recently with my Profi boards is not only having them secure up underneath this lip, but I also have these forks that the Profi board it slides up top, and then you kind of slide it down up underneath these forks. I'm really happy with this securement method of helping the Profi board to stay in place. This way I'm not putting like a dab of E6000 in there or anything. I like the way that works, right? Along each side of the chassis, there is some greebly work. The spine has these ribs. Why can't I talk this morning? The spine has just some like ridges and greebly work. I did do this weird knurled pattern at the waist here. I kind of like how that came out. On the other side, we do have some more greebly work. I did add 2 rectangular LEDs for a little bit of accent work underneath the kill switch. Here's our kill switch. I've mentioned this in the past, in a few past videos. I personally, I'm trying to get away from putting disco lights all over my chassis, unless it is requested by the customer. If the customer wants to put Neopixels all over the chassis, I am fine with obliging and doing that. That is totally fine. That is your personal preference. I'm fine with doing that. But as for me, from a design aesthetic, I like being a little bit more tasteful with my placement of LEDs. I want it to look a little bit more, for me, I think less is more when it comes to lights. Lately, that's the way that I've been trying to to do my chassis. So that's what I've been doing, just a little bit. I think this one is like a red and, might be a red and green or a blue and green on this one. We'll find out in a couple minutes when we come up top, right? So there are 2 square LEDs on this one, right? And that is it. Up top, 6-rail PCB. This is what makes a connection to the upper part of the hilt, okay? And that is it. So let's come up top. All right, so here it is. The hilt. I don't believe this hilt has a name, but it is from Saber Relics Reforged Gallery. Okay, katana themed purple guy. Very, very unique hilt, right? So let's talk about the chassis first. I did my usual pass of pewter rub and buff on this guy. Hopefully this is in frame. So yeah, pewter and onyx rub and buff on this. There is a green and red rectangular LED in here. Here is our kill switch. Profi board is here. 18350 battery tray. Let's put our battery in. Spring side is your negative. Hit your kill switch. I guess I didn't put twist to activate on this one. Yep. Nope, there it is. All right. All right. So once you get your battery in, you're going to want to take this pommel off. Now, taking this pommel off is a little bit intricate, right? So there are 2 different sized screws holding this pommel in place. Unfortunately, this hilt did not come with the Allen keys to do so. So this one is a 5mm screw. And you want to unthread that. I know. Listen, I'm a millimeter guy, okay? I'm sorry. And this is a 2mm size screw. So you want to take those out. I'm a metric guy. I'm sorry. I just it's more superior. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, everybody. You know, my boy Jeremy's gonna give me shit for that. All right. So once you get your pommel off, well, let's talk about the outside of this hilt first, right? So the original install was, like I mentioned, a sled type install. So I had to, unfortunately, getting the old install out of this was a little bit of a challenge, okay, without damaging stuff, right? So I had to remove all of the upper assembly of this hilt, like the Suba. I had to remove this inner crystal chamber. So this inner crystal chamber is not brass or metal. This is a 3D printed, painted inner crystal chamber. So it was difficult trying not to damage that. In fact, some of these parts were already, it appeared that they were already damaged. So I had to remove all of that. There were, all of the wires that were inside of here were very, very thick silicone wires. So I don't typically use silicone anymore. So I had to remove all of that. To use a 6-rail PCB, I needed to mount the male end of the PCB up here. Okay, so I designed a male end of a 6-rail PCB holder up, and it just sits up here. In fact, it is just underneath this crystal holder. And I just designed it to kind of sit and press fit underneath this crystal holder, right? Or this crystal chamber holder. Crystal chamber, rather. Another thing that I did was remove that micro USB charge port, and I added an 11 Neopixel accent ring from stock. And I just added like a lens to put in front of it, just for extra accent. It looks like a greebly. Right. There was a pixel switch from KR Sabers. Unfortunately, in removing this to disassemble the entire install, this was damaged. But I did have these in stock here, so that was replaced. Right. And that's it. Okay. Other than that, this was just as it shipped, right? So, once you get your battery in your chassis, you can slide your chassis into the hilt until it stops, okay? You're going to see that make a connection to that upper PCB. So there's that accent ring. So this pommel, there is a piece on this pommel that is just kind of free floating. Just keep that in mind, right? So make sure all your holes are lined up. Put your pommel in place. And then you can screw it in, screw these. Okay. You can screw these screws back in. All right. That's one. Let's see if this other one will cooperate. Okay. So there's that lit pixel switch. So I've set this up. You're probably, those keen Profi board users will probably wonder how there's so many accents going on with a 6-rail PCB. So I've set this all up as sub blades, right? So we have 2 Neopixels in this crystal chamber, an upper and a lower. We've got this 11 Neopixel ring, and then we've got the KR pixel switch. So all of these are set up as sub blades. Okay. And that's it. So let's come down to the bottom. All right, so there's that little accent ring, greebly. So I knew that we didn't need that USB charge port anymore, so I knew I wanted to delete it, but I didn't want a gaping hole there anymore. So I had a 11 Neopixel accent ring here. I have a bunch in stock, so I figured why not, right? And there's that crystal chamber. Okay. Let's put a blade in it. All right, so this is a 1-inch blade. Is it? Yeah, 1-inch blade holder. There are 2 set screws holding a blade plug in place currently. Let me remove that. There is a blade plug. You want to insert your blade so it's resting on those PCB pins. Then you can tighten both of those set screws. There's one on each side, just so it's hugging that blade. And then you are good to go. That crystal chamber. Okay. Let's see what else we got on here.
What is it? Father's lightsaber. This is the weapon of a Jedi Knight.
So to the customer, this is a single button Profi setup. So you've got twist to activate, twist to deactivate are on. I typically put that on all of my installs. To scroll through your fonts, you want a long press of your button, your main, and release, right? So while the blade is pointed up, long press and release, you will scroll through your fonts. If you point it down, you will scroll backwards in your fonts, right? So that is it. That is the custom hilt from Saber Relics Reforged Gallery. Very, very interesting hilt. I love that we've got a exposed crystal chamber behind that acrylic. That's very, very cool to me, right? So that's all I got to the customer. Thank you very much for trusting me with your install. If anyone has any questions about this one, please do not be a stranger. And with that being said, may the force be with you always. Thanks for watching, everybody.